Hello everyone. So today I wanted to make this video on org mode, of course. That is of course one of the main theme of my channel. Now last week I attended one event, not event, but a meetup, org meetup, and of course I learned a lot. But I thought at the same time we have responsibility. I think everyone who is using open source or any great tool, I think we all should try to encourage others to try it out. And today I thought I'll probably make a video and talk about how I have been using org mode. Of course, we know the usual use case of org mode, that is task management, personal task management. But I thought I need to elaborate on this. It is not just task management. We do quite a lot of things using org mode. In fact, we manage our lives. So let me just talk about it. And I've made a list here of 20 items. I'm sure it is more than 20, but let's start with the very first one. The first one is, of course, task management. So we all use org mode for planning our work, and org mode is basically known for doing this, and that is actually the primary main use case of org mode. And by the way, when it comes to task management, there are some other points in this list which is, in a way, you can say it is part of task management, but I want to mention it separately, because task management usually means that you want to work on something like a task, right? But it could be anything. Basically, the whole point of using org mode, if you're able to use it properly, you can actually manage your life with it and you will be much more happy, I guess. The next thing that I do, which is again part of task management, and I want to mention it because it is important, is basically to track time and task management with time tracking. And on my channel, I have shown how to do it. You can actually do clock time. You can report on what you worked on. The third thing that I have in my list is, and by the way, this list is not really in any order. I just wrote it down, and I'm just trying to share it with everyone. The third thing which I have in my list is creating proposals, and I have been doing it, I think, since last year. The next item I have, the fourth one, is contracts. So yes, you can use org mode to create PDF files, but I wanted to mention contracts because when it comes to contracts, it is not just simple PDF. You might want to do some calculations. You might want to leave a space where signature. So in a way, contract proposal, it's a bit similar. And I will also mention a couple of other things like offer letters. So if you are maybe trying to write an offer letter, and I'm mentioning here offer letter because in my offer letters, I don't really write one offer letter for one unique offer letter for each and every employee. If I have to, I just, of course I can write a separate offer letter, but I can just use macro replacement. So I can just pass in the employee name, salary, start date, and it will basically generate the offer letter. Of course, the job description will of course be separate, but the whole point of using org mode is to save time, be more efficient, reuse our content. The next thing is point number 6 is managing or keeping track of my goals, life goals. And of course, my life goals are divided into 3 main categories: short term, which is basically what I want to do in the next 6 months, then medium term goals like 6 months to 2 years, and then long term goals like 2 to 5 year goals. So I think it always helps. The next item I have in my list is number 7. It's basically to keep track of the songs that I want to listen, or I should say, if I know that I like a song and I want to maybe do something about it, add it to my playlist, I basically first enter it in my org mode. And of course, there are a lot of ways of doing it. You can use org capture. You can just use capture, I guess, without refiling. And I, of course, have a separate header for it. And the next point I have is keeping track of my leads. So yes, I use org mode for my leads, incoming leads. So if I am, let us say if you approach me and you're a potential customer, client of mine, I would of course create a folder for you with your own org file. Yes, I do that. And in that particular org file, I basically write down stuff. And that is basically one of the point which I will mention. I have it in my list. And I think when you're talking to someone, like, I mean, of course, I can use a proper system, like some CRM based tools, but I prefer to use org mode because you can search, it is all text, and it is super easy to, so perform a search using, of course, native org, like native Emacs search, or maybe you can do fuzzy search. You can actually retrieve the information very quickly. The next thing I have in my list is the movies to watch. So I do have like a list of movies that I want to watch, and I use org mode to do that. Sometimes, I mean, the thing is that I guess you can hopefully see that org mode is like your secondary or maybe your main brain, and you can actually dump everything to org mode and then organize it, hence the name org mode, I guess. And then, of course, do something with it later on. So if I have to watch a movie, I try to, feed it to my org mode system. Point number 10 is blogging. Yes, I do post blogs on one of my blog. And you can, of course, post blog. You can just do simple site updations. You can do that. You can publish a website using org mode. Point number 11 is writing books, and I guess you know it. Point number 12 is writing presentations, like my training content. And for that I use LaTeX, and Beamer. Then point number 13 is things to buy. So if I have to buy something, like for example, these days I'm trying to buy a 24mm lens, and I'm also looking at or considering buying an SUV. I'm not really sure, but let us see, so that I can go on. I can probably go to Europe for long drives. So that is in my list. Actually, I also have to buy a new phone, couple of other things, like things that I mean, most of these things are probably not really super important, but some of these things are. And yes, I do maintain the list in org mode. Next point is point number 14. I use and rely on org mode. It is not really a use case. It is a use case, but I think it is important to basically keep myself motivated, because when I have things in my control, I feel good, and I want to be in control of, I mean, not always, but most of the times I try to basically do things properly. And by doing everything that I've talked about so far, I think you can also feel and hopefully relate that yes, it is like ideal state. Of course, no one is ideal, but at the same time, if you make an attempt to do these things and rely on a system like org mode, you will be happy. You will be motivated, I guess, in life. Point number 15 is holiday planner. Yes. So if I have to plan holidays, so although I don't really take a lot of holidays, but usually summertime, and then autumn, then in winter, Easter time. So I do have so based on, of course, the term holidays here in the UK, you need to plan your holidays well in advance, because of, we all know that if you don't really plan well ahead, then you will pay a lot of money, and you can use org mode. I mean, it is not really super complicated. I just, keep, like, for each and every duration, like I know I'm looking at my list. The upcoming list is basically showing me that on like in the month of October, I have to take a break, then December, and then February, and so on. So I, of course, start creating a header, and then potentially I try to plan the dates on when I can take holidays. The next thing, you know about it, I mentioned it recently, journal. I use org mode to maintain my journal, write my journal every day, if not every day, at least regularly. Then what else? So I think I mentioned this earlier, which is of course a bit similar to maintaining the list of my leads. So when the leads are converted to clients, then yes, I use org mode for client management. So basically, I try to create a file basically to keep track of what all I have been doing. Basically, point number 18 is notes, meeting minutes, but it is of course a bit similar, but you don't really have to combine these things. You can just use org mode to keep track of your leads. But in a way, when your leads are converted to a client, then you need to do something with that client because it's an ongoing engagement. And usually, whenever you're working with a client, you need to, of course, make sure that you don't really forget anything. So I do that using org mode. I don't really keep the list of each and every task in org mode. If I have to collaborate with someone, I use Jira, to be honest. Because, and of course, when you're using a tool like Jira, because I'm a Jira consultant, most of my clients or majority of my clients, they are using Jira. So for actual collaboration, I use Jira. But if I don't really have to collaborate for my own tracking, I use org mode. Point number 19 is keeping track of my repairs. And these repairs are something that, of course, I do have like a long list of things that I need to fix. It's not always the repairs like physical repairs or DIY. It could be anything. Like I know that I have to write few small scripts or fix something, which is in a way a project, which is always like usually there in my project, individual project header or folder. But in general, if I have to repair something, and I know, if you live in a house, you need to always do something, right? I use that. Basically, I have like a list here in my org file. And also things that I mentioned it that I want to use org mode to track or at least plan the things that I want to purchase. But once I have purchased those things, then of course I also use org mode basically to store information and to basically keep track of, let us say, the numbers and purchase dates. It is always helpful. And the last thing that I want to talk about is basically, point number 20 here, is basically the whole idea here is, or one of the important idea here is to use org mode to save information that you can retrieve easily. So retrieval, like saving and retrieval of the information is there is no match, right? You can search, you can plan things, and because end of the day it is nothing but an org file, which is a text file, you can perform a search using any tool, any text-based tool. So these are the things that I thought I'll probably talk about, hopefully to give you some ideas and clues and maybe to motivate you to consider and think. And maybe if you are thinking of using org mode for doing something similar, then go ahead and give it a try. All right, that is it. That is all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new. Thank you very much. Bye bye.